Okay, it says we're recording. We're going to give this a try here. Okay, so what is the VMSG dashboard? First of all, the dashboard was developed with and specifically for public health. We're here in Arizona, and gosh, many, many years ago, we were working with the health departments here, the state health department, and one of the largest health departments in the nation, Maricopa County, developing a system that was basically operational planning and execution. So operational plans are detailed plans that take you from a very high level all the way down to a specific set of activities with folks in here. One of the things that they wanted to be able to do is to be able to keep these plans alive. So keep them up to date using something like the Deming cycle, PDCA. Our nomenclature is plan, do, check, and adjust. So that's how we keep these plans dynamic. When 2011 rolled around and FAB came about, it just turned out that they happened to have a fully demonstrated performance management system in their accreditation process. And for those of you who are familiar with accreditation, you'll know that fully demonstrated is the highest level that FAB can give you. And pretty much everybody who's used our system, in fact, everybody of the 240 some odd health departments who've used our system for accreditation have gotten fully demonstrated by FAB. In fact, we've actually gotten some feedback from FAB through our clients saying that, you know, that was one of the highlights of their accreditation process here. One of the reasons that we're very good at doing the performance management, performance monitoring is because we're able to engage all staff through what we call the real-time planning, which we'll go into some detail on here. The system will email out everybody who's been assigned as an objective or an activity lead, including external partners if you choose to. And then that system, those folks can go back into the system and do the updates on the system, which keeps all the information up to date so that as you're doing the check phase of the plan, do, check, and adjust cycle, you've got the information you need to do that in here. So we've defined performance management in 3 steps. Number 1 is those operational plans we were talking about. So operational plans follow this pyramid model. We're going to go into more detail here in a second. And what you see in these bubbles are what FAB calls their 6-pack of plans. So these are the minimum required plans for accreditation. And all the plans fit into this same model. So developing the operational plans is a key element. Once you got the plans developed, then you need to be able to monitor them. We monitor plans at multiple levels. What we call the macro level is kind of the big picture. That could be the overall plan. It could be the overall department. It could be a single division within a department. So it's the big picture here. Underneath that, you might have a set of specific activities or objectives that are moving around, and you don't necessarily see them at the macro level. So you want to be able to keep track of them at a lower level in case they might be affecting the macro level. That's what we call the micro level. And again, we're going to go into detail on that. And then the other thing we have down here is VMSG Public. VMSG Public is the ability to create public-facing web pages out of any data elements in the system. And we'll go through that as well. Performance improvement, PDCA cycle. So plan is what you're doing, developing the operational plans. Do is the execution phase. Check is using the performance monitoring tools to see how we're doing. And then adjust is potentially adjusting the plan if necessary, or adjusting the resources to get to the plan. So we talked about the planning model briefly here. The planning model is here. We represent it as a pyramid because you're going to start out at your organization as the top, which is your health department. Underneath that, you're going to have the groups. So groups is kind of a generic name for divisions or offices or programs. And in some cases, things like what FAB calls the 6-pack of plans are individual groups within themselves. Each group then has a set of services or initiatives. Services are ongoing things. I use the example of WIC as a service, something we've been doing forever and will continue to do forever. Initiatives are things that you want to do in the future. So think about stuff that you're moving into in the future here. Each service and initiative then has a set of goals, each goal a set of objectives, and each objective a set of activities. You'll see that as you get into something like your strategic plan, once you get down to the bottom of the pyramid, you could literally have hundreds of activities that you're monitoring. So you'll see how that works out in the real-time planning here. Now, we have this organization we created called USA Public Health. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go live into the system, and we're going to walk through those 3 phases. We're going to develop a quick little operational plan. We use the example of tobacco cessation, and we're going to call that an initiative. So it's a future program that we're developing here. We're going to take that through its life cycle so we can see the various tools in monitoring it. And then we're actually going to take it through the PDCA cycle to see how we might make improvements. And that'll give you a really good overview of the system as we're doing that. So let's go over to the live system. When you log in, I don't know if any of you have actually logged into the system or not, but if you do and you are what we call an org admin user, you'll see all of these menu items. If you're a different level of user, you might see part of these items up here. But up here across the top, you'll see these navigation tabs. And what this is that pyramid I just showed you flipped on its left side. So as you go across the tabs, you're getting deeper and deeper into the pyramid. So you start out at the organization, your health department, your groups, services, initiatives, then goals, objectives, and activities. So I'm going to go to my groups tab here. Now it took me immediately to community health. So let's assume for the purpose of today's discussion that I'm the community health director. So when I logged in, it took me to my default group, which in this case is community health. For now, I'm going to go down and select our group called Tobacco 2023. Now, everything that I do on these tabs to the right is within Tobacco 2023. So it narrows down the pyramid as we're moving forward. So under the Tobacco 2023 group, I have a set of services or initiatives. In this case, we're going to call them initiatives or future programs here. So the first one is tobacco cessation, secondhand smoke, and tobacco initiation prevention. So the services and initiatives are what I call big buckets. They're what is going to be in this group without defining specifically what we're trying to accomplish. In this case, we're just saying, hey, we're going to work on tobacco cessation. Under tobacco cessation, then, we're going to have a set of goals. Goals are a high-level definition of what we're trying to accomplish. So, for instance, reduce smoking in high schools, reduce smoking in colleges, reduce smoking in public areas. So we've defined an action. So typically it's an action verb followed by a few words like reduce smoking in high schools. What we haven't done at this point in time is said, okay, when we're reducing smoking in high schools, which high schools? How much are we going to reduce it? In what time frame are we going to do this? We haven't defined that yet. We're going to get down there when we get to the objective level. But at this point, we're just defining overall what we're trying to accomplish. Down here at the bottom, we have traffic lights. As you'll notice, we have 4 different traffic lights. Green just things are moving along as expected. Yellow would indicate something is potentially getting in the way. Maybe somebody in this plan is retiring and we're not going to be able to continue with the plan until we get somebody new in there. Red might mean that, hey, that person abruptly left the organization. Now we don't have somebody to fill in. Might mark it as red. The gold bar indicates successful completion. So once you get to gold, you've completed that section of the plan in here. Now, typically when I change a traffic light, I'm going to put a note down here just indicating why I changed the light. So if I put a note that says, hey, I'm changing it to yellow because, I think that John is going to be retiring in the next couple of months here. We got to replace him, something along that line. We're going to get into a lot of detail when we get into the operational planning section, but there's a lot of more detail down here. One of those things is what we call a data source. So to reduce smoking in high schools, you got to have some information as to, how far are we in that process here? And that's what the data source is all about. The data source, when I open it up, says we have a text description of what we're trying to do. So it's the CDC Smoking Cessation Fast Facts website. So down here, you can see the link all the way down here talks about this is the link to that particular page. So if I click on this little link button over here, it looks like a chain link, I guess, if you will. It's going to pop open a new browser window. It's going to take me to that web page that I've defined in there. And the reason to have this in there is this is typically the data points that I'm going to use to update my plan. So down here, I can look at this and go down and maybe find that specific information that I'm looking for. 1 second. Okay, so that's our goal level, reduce smoking in high schools. The next thing we're going to do is define what we call SMART objectives. SMART being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. Typically, we focus on the specific, measurable, and time-based because, if they're not realistic, why would you go after it, I guess is the key here. So down here, we have our first objective, reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. So what we've defined is a very, very specific target, where we're going to reduce it, by how much, and by when. So that's that SM&T in there, if you will. The other thing we're going to do at this point is we're going to assign an objective lead. In this case, Steve Hansen is our objective lead. I can go up here and say show all users. So these would be all the users on a little demo organization here. I'm going to continue using Steve as our objective lead. Steve's job is 2 things. Number 1, his job is to get us to that target of a 25% reduction. And number 2, his job is to update this information through what we call the real-time planning. So Steve will get an email on a regular basis to go back in and update the status of this. Down here, you can see we have a percent reduction of 25% already at this point in time. So this is the objective or the target. Now, in order to get to that target, we have typically a set of steps we're going to go through. We call activities. Some people call them action steps. And what they are the things that we're going to do that we believe will get us to the target at the objective level here. So we've got 3 of them here. Our first one is create training content materials for students and faculty on the dangers of smoking. We call this a project-based activity. There are 3 types of activities. Project-based was the original and went on for quite a while. And then through the feedback from folks like yourselves, we added a quality assurance and a quantitative measurement activity. When we do the operational planning, we'll get into great detail on the difference of those. Every activity has got a performance metric. In this case, we'll create training content materials for students and faculty. Once we've created the training content, we know that we're completed with the activity. So how do I know when I've successfully completed the activity? That's the performance metric. We've got a set of dates in here. When are we going to do this? These can be varied over time. You know, as things happen, like COVID happens and it moves things back. We got a notes field down here that's defining how far along we are. And then down here, we have the percent complete. So in this case, we're saying we're 100% complete. If I noticed in the notes, it says completed chapter 1, and we have 4 chapters. This was probably at 25%. Chapter 2, 50, 75, and 100%. So this is one way to measure it, is just using the percent complete. The other thing we have over here is the ability to assign team members and team lead. So I click on the little pencil icon. I'm going to open it up to the whole department. So we have 3 columns: team members, exactly that; team lead, so in this case, Diane is the person driving the content creation; and email notification. Email notification is who is going to be notified in order to go back in and update this particular activity. In this case, Diane is going to get the email notification. Typically, it's the team lead. Doesn't have to be, but typically is. Over here on the right-hand side, we have FTE, or full-time equivalent. What we're looking at in here is the percentage of that person's time that's going to be dedicated to this activity within the time frame of the activity. So you see we have Diane and William both at a 0.1, or about 10% of their time. Then we have Andrea at 30% of her time. And what we do with that is several things. One of those is we just roll it up the pyramid. So down here at the activity level, you see we have a 0.5 FTE to accomplish this. If I take all 3 of these activities and roll them up to their objective, it says we have a 0.7 FTE at the objective level. So it just gives you the ability to quantify the human effort. Typically, this is only used during budgeting cycles and that sort of thing. So how much is this program costing us? Can we continue to afford it? Can we get some grant funds for it, or whatever it happens to be? The other thing you can do is add external partners. So there's an external partner database, which is obviously your external partners. You manage that. If I click in here, I'm going to say, okay, we have an external partner, a VMSG dashboard. Within that partner, we have several contacts. In this case, we just have Fred Erickson as the internal contact. Fred is going to be our assistance, if you will, in creating the content. So he's an external partner out there. Now, you can also make Fred a system user, which allows then that email to go to Fred directly so he can come back in and update the information. So that's our first activity, is create the training content. Our second activity then is we're going to take that training content and we're going to go out to the schools and do 9 training sessions each month on the dangers of smoking. Our performance metric in this case for the quality assurance activity is created for us. It says training sessions provided, measured monthly, green, yellow, and red. So it automatically sets the traffic light for us in here. And again, we get into performance monitoring training. We'll get deeper into that. We have a beginning date because this is a cyclical activity. In this case, we're saying it's monthly. So 5/1 was our beginning date. When we're measuring the next month, obviously it'd be 6/1, 7/1, 8/1. So it's going to move that date ahead for us in here. So our second activity is we're going to create the training content. Again, we're going to assign team members, team leads, and activity partners. Then we have a third activity down here. The third activity is while we're doing the training, we're also going to be contacting all of the tobacco vendors within 1 mile of Wayne High School to ensure they're not selling to minors. We call this a quantitative measurement activity. The reason we do that is because we're actually counting at this point in time. So in this case, we're looking to get to 20 tobacco vendors. So I can put down in here how many tobacco vendors we contacted. It can say we have a target of 20. It's going to calculate the percent complete for us. So those are the 3 activities that we believe are going to get us to that target. Now, if we go back here and take a look in the pyramid, it looks like this. Our group was Tobacco 2023. Tobacco cessation is our initiative. The first goal was to reduce smoking in high schools. Underneath that, we had that SMART objective. So reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. And then the steps we're going to go through to get there. We're going to create the training curriculum, take that, go to the schools, do the training, and then contact the local tobacco vendors. So that's the planning process. Every plan fits into this model. Your strategic plan will be an identical model to your CHIP and your workforce development. The nice thing about that is it makes it easy to look across plans and compare information and things along that line. Now we have the plan in place. Let's take it through that PDCA cycle. So at this point in time, we've done the plan. Now let's go execute the plan. In the do phase, we're executing the plan. And this is where real-time planning comes in. So everybody that we designated as an objective lead or an activity lead is going to get an email notification. Most often it's monthly, but you can set it for anything you want. So in a monthly cycle, let's say that Diane's going to get an email saying, how far along are you in creating the training content? She'll go back into the system through what we call quick update, which we'll talk about a little later here. I'm going to go back into the system and do the update and say, hey, I'm 75% done training, or I'm 100% done completing the training content. And then William's going to go back in and input how many training sessions did you do this month? And then we're going to go talk about how many tobacco vendors did we do. So this is how we keep the information up to date so that you can use the check phase. The check phase is, how are we doing? If you don't have the real-time planning enabled and you're not collecting that information automatically, how are you going to do the check phase? Where are you going to get the information? What that means is you're going to have to manually go out and collect the information each time you do the check phase. If in fact you're doing it automatically, the check phase is a piece of cake. I'll show you how that works. So let's go back to our objective. Our target of reducing smoking at Wayne High School. I can look here at the chart, which gives me the historical record of this over time. So when we started the program, we were at a 0% reduction, and we climbed and we climbed and we climbed and got to our 25% reduction and capped off there. So what we're looking at is saying that, hey, we have a target of 25%. We have an actual of 25%. Everything's working beautifully. Back to PDCA. So that was the check phase. If you're collecting all that information in the background, it's that easy. If you're not, you've got to go collect all that information first and then go back in here. In the adjust phase, we're going to make corrections if necessary. In this particular case, everything's working beautifully. Don't need to make any corrections. Continue through the execution, check it every once in a while, continue through the cycle. Now let's look at a different example here. We have a similar one, reduce smoking at Desert Vista High School. First of all, we have a yellow light over here. Down here in the notes field, it says not quite to the 25% target, COVID restrictions on training and vendor visits. Okay, so we know we've got a problem here. We're not getting to our target. Let's go look and see where we are. So we ramped up again. We got the 21% reduction and not our 25% reduction. So we're about 4 points shy of where we wanted to be. So at this point in time, we go back to the PDCA cycle. We're going to want to be able to go in our check phase. That was part of our check phase. We're going to go in and say, hey, we know that we're at 21% reduction, not 25. What we don't know is why. So let's go back and dig into our activities. So underneath this particular objective, we got a set of activities. It'd be very similar to the Wayne High School activities. Create the training content. Okay, gold bar says we're done with that. Don't even need to look at it. Our second one, however, says provide 9 training sessions each month on the dangers of smoking to students and faculty. We have a red light here. Down here it says training slowed due to COVID. Oh, okay. And look at the actual over here. We're at 3. So let's look at the chart on this one. So the first month we got up to our 9 training sessions, 9, 9, and then we started dropping off. Let's assume this is the point in time when COVID came around. Kids were staying home. Our training was to go to the schools and do the training, so we're not getting to them. We're not able to do the training. So that's probably one of the issues that we're not getting in there. Oops, sorry. The other one is contacting all 20 tobacco vendors. Let's go look at the chart on that one. Okay, we climbed up here, got to 15 of the 20 tobacco vendors, but there's still 5 of them out there that might be doing something bad, but we can't get to them at this point in time. And it says difficulty contacting vendors due to COVID restrictions. Okay, so between not being able to do the training and not being able to contact the tobacco vendors, we're probably not going to get to our 25% target. So at this point in time, we're going to want to make some adjustments. Now, there's a couple of choices here. Typically, you can adjust the plan or the resources. In this particular case, let's say we go back to the beginning of COVID, realizing COVID's going to be a long-term issue for us here. we don't have resources to put into a program like this. Maybe we want to just adjust the plan down a little bit so we have success during the time of COVID and then reevaluate after COVID. So adjusting the plan is one of the options. The other option was, if we could we adjust the resources to get back on target? One of the resources was we were doing training face to face. Can't do that because the kids aren't in school. Maybe what we could do is adjust our training so we have a virtual training, so we could use Zoom or something to get to the kids at home, do our training that way. So that's one option of adjusting the resources. The other resource was, we can't contact the rest of the tobacco vendors because we don't have anybody to do it. Maybe we got some grant funds sitting around that we could pay an external contractor to go out and contact those other 5 tobacco vendors, make sure they're not doing anything bad. So our choices are, no adjustment necessary, as you saw in the first example. If it makes sense to adjust the plan based on the situation, you can do that. If it makes sense or has the ability to adjust the resources, meaning funding or people or whatever it is, adjust the resources to get back on plan. And then maybe there's a third or a fourth option, and that might be adjust the plan down a little bit and maybe adjust just one of the resources. So maybe if we went to a virtual training, don't worry about the tobacco vendors, we could get to 23%. So that's PDCA cycle. Again, it's very, very facilitated by having this real-time planning in there. So you always have real-time information to compare, makes it checking the plans real easy in here. Next, performance monitoring at the macro level, the big picture here. So what we're looking at is what we call the dashboard, and the dashboard is determined by which group you're looking at. So I'm going to go back to my groups tab. So as you recall, I mentioned that I'm the community health director. When I log in, I'm at community health. I don't really even need to do anything other than click on this little traffic light in the top right corner to get to my dashboard. And because I'm on community health by default, it's going to take me to the dashboard specifically for community health. Takes it about 10 or 12 seconds to generate all the data points for the dashboard here. So this is the dashboard for community health. I'm going to kind of go over it simply today, and we'll get into it. We go into the performance monitoring training, we'll get into greater detail. But what I'm looking at in this top left corner is the number of activities or objectives or goals. So I can select that in each traffic light status. So you see we have 13 green, 4 yellow, 1 red, and 5 gold completed. And it shows us we're about 22 days behind schedule. One of the nice things about this is I can drill down on anything on this screen and get to the data points behind it. So I could look at these 4 yellow activities or this 1 red activity, maybe make some corrections, get it back on track, whatever. Down at the bottom, I have a couple of different views. Number 1 is my folks, my activity leads. So I show that I have my activity lead, Diane. Last time she updated it was over 60 days ago. I know that because it's red. If it were green, it would be less than 30 days ago. And if it's yellow, it'd be 30 to 60 days. So in an ideal world, you want everything to be in the green here. So everything's less than 30 days ago. So you're working with real-time information. Over here is a roll-up of the FTE by person. So we're just saying how loaded is this person based on the FTE assignments we made. Lagging says I got activities that are calculated to be behind schedule. The days is the same as the schedule gauge up here for the individual person. So in this case, Diane is 32 days ahead of schedule across all the activities she's been assigned. She's got a couple of overdue activities, overdue indicating that we're past the ending date of the activity and not yet 100% complete. And then a number of red, yellow, green, and gold activities in here. So that's one view is my people. So how's each person doing about keeping their information up to date and keeping all their plans up to date in here? My second view is groups. And what that shows me down is that group screen you saw down here, depending on where we're at. Right now it's community health. So it showed community health, tobacco, and WIC, which are under community health. And then the same data points over here. And then my third one is priorities. This is kind of interesting. This maps your strategic plan against every other plan in the system. And you can have lots and lots of plans. And what you're trying to do is just make sure that everything you're doing in the system is in fact rolling up into your strategic plan. So you'll have your strategic priorities down this column and the same basic data points over here. Again, we'll go into great detail in the performance monitoring training. Up here at the top right, we have individual objectives. So those targets that we're looking at, these are specific things that I want to keep my eye on. So on the objective screen, there's a little green flag you turn on and they show up on your login only. Everybody can select the same ones or everybody can select different ones. Usually the ones you want to keep on track are yellows and reds because if they're green and gold, they're already either completed or on track in here. And again, I can click on that, go down to the objective, uncheck the flag, and take it right off there if I want to once completed. So this is my dashboard. Again, I can look at any specific plan. I can look at my strategic plan on one screen. I can look at community health on one screen. I can look at WIC on one screen. So it gives me that macro level view. Now, over COVID, we had a lot of extra time. So what we did is added a lot of features to the system that people have been asking for. And one of those was we call VMSG Mobile, the ability to get to some of these functions on your phone. So for instance, the dashboard screen itself is available on your phone. You'll notice it's broken into 3 phone screens just due to screen real estate. The login is identical to on your desktop to your phone. So you're going to go to the link. The link is called login.vmsgdashboard.com. We'll go over that in detail in a few minutes here. But you do that on your phone or on your desktop. Now, the nice thing about this is there's no app required. So you don't have to worry about your IT folks approving that sort of thing. It actually is what we call a dynamic app. It builds it dynamically in the web browser on your phone when you go to log in. Same functionality. Everything is clickable on here. I can drill down to it. I can turn these my priorities on and off, the whole 9 yards. But again, it's available on your phone kind of for convenience in here. So what we just talked about is the core functionality of the VMSG dashboard. Everything that you did in there. So if for the people out there who've gone in for accreditation, and you got the Fab 6-pack of plans in there. Sometimes they're stacked, like some of those things are under your strategic plan. A lot of times workforce development is under your strategic plan. CHIP is typically separate, but you got all those plans in there in one way, shape, or form in there. You've got the real-time planning enabled, so you're actually collecting that information in the background from anybody because Fab requires that you engage the whole department in there. And you're collecting all that information, and you're able to use that to keep your plans up to date. That is where you're going to get that fully demonstrated moniker from Fab. So you're going to be able to actually go in there and we actually have, by the way, the templates that you can send to Fab that says, here's our performance management system. And it talks about VMSG dashboard. And you basically put the name of your department in there. But what you're seeing in here is the core functionality. What we're going to talk about now, and we're going to kind of go a little quicker through it, is the additional functions and features that have been added over time, again, based on feedback from folks like yourselves. Before I do that, however, are there any questions? I know there's a lot of data coming at you. Again, no test. Don't worry about it. Just collect what you can out of it. Okay, let's move on. Document management. As you're going through the accreditation process or reaccreditation process, you're collecting hundreds and hundreds of documents. Somewhere between 300 and 1,000 documents typically are submitted into Fab. The document management system allows you to attach the documents right to the Fab plans that we have built into the system. So if you're going through reaccreditation, you attach the documents at the measure level on the plan. These are the documents you're going to be submitting up into eFab. You got a lot of definition down here of the documents that you can use. You got a date, which is the expiration date of the documents down here, the actual documents. These documents, when you put them in here, are stored up on our secure servers. They're backed up every night, so you never worry about losing them in there. Over the course of the last couple of months, we had a couple of health departments came to us and said, we think you guys can help us with a problem we have, and that is to be able to manage some of these documents like memos of understanding, standard operating procedures, policies, that sort of thing, because these documents typically have to be available to the team. They have to be updated on a regular basis. Most often it's annually. So those documents, and typically they're assigned to a specific person or a group of people to do the updates in there. So what we did is we made a kind of a tweak to one of the activities to allow people to actually do exactly that. So let's go through an example. Let's say we have a group called administrative services. Under that, we create a service called SOPs, or standard operating procedures. We have a goal that says manage and update all administrative SOPs. Down here, we have another goal that says manage and update all emergency operations SOPs. So different classes of standard operating procedures. The objective down here says manage and update the destruction of records SOP. So a very specific SOP. The document is attached to that objective. Under the objective, we put an activity that says update the destruction of records SOP annually. We have assigned that activity to a specific person or group of people who are responsible for that. And then we put that into what we call a timeline activity. What that says is we're going to call it an annual cycle, and we're going to say maybe 80% of that cycle, we're going to generate a yellow light on that activity, which then triggers it to notify that person to do the update on that particular activity. So what it does is just closes the loop on being able to keep all this information up to date. The traffic lights will let you know that everything, if it's all green, everything is good. If it's yellow, it's in the process of being updated. If it's red, it's past the end date and it hasn't been updated. So just kind of a nice feature to be able to manage critical documents. Lots and lots of reports in the system. This is the reports menu up here. There's a bunch of different reports. About 85% of the time, probably you're going to use this top one called Operational Plan Report. For the example we're using today, the report would look something like this. The group was Tobacco 2023. Initiative was tobacco cessation. The green indicates there's a document attached to tobacco cessation. Documents can be attached anywhere in the system. This is that data source we were talking about. It's at the goal level. You can have data sources at the goal, objective, and activity level, so you'd have different red lines in there. Everything that's blue are the notes that you put in there. You've got all the people assigned to it. You got the status over here. This is the most detailed performance monitoring tool. Most people don't want to see that level of detail. The only person who might want to is Steve, who's the guy kind of leading the charge on this. Everybody else just kind of wants to know, hey, how are we doing on this particular plan? That's where VMSG Public came from. VMSG Public is just a simple interactive way to create public-facing web pages. Show you an example of the same program we're talking about here. So this is the tobacco cessation initiative up here. So I'm looking at that level. And if I roll over, it says we have 3 gold and 1 green, 1 yellow, 1 red activity, and we're 51 days behind schedule. I can look at the levels below that. So I can look at the goal of reduce smoking in high school. Again, my rollovers in here. I can go all the way down to the activity level. So this is that activity of providing 9 training sessions each month. Again, I can roll over and say we did 9, we did 9, we did 9, started dropping off down here. These are called indicator rows. You can have as many of those on a page as you want, as many web pages as you want. The bottom line is you're creating this unique web address. This web address is up on our servers, so it's always available to you 24/7. You can grab that, you can put it in an email and send it out. So maybe the board would like to have something like this, so they'd be able to say, how are we doing on the tobacco program? You can send that to them. You can give this link to your IT folks and say, hey, would you put this up on our webpage under, specific tobacco page or something like that, so that our community can see how we're doing on a program. So it's a real simple tool. Once you I've done this one time, and again, in our performance monitoring training, we'll actually go through and create one of these. Very, very simple process, but very effective way to communicate with the public and partners and such. Okay, we've got 2 more quick sections to go through. Are there any questions here? Okay, let's go. 3-dimensional planning. This comes in after you get quite a few plans in the system and you want to look across the plans for commonalities, gaps, and overlaps. So for instance, you might want to know, how are we doing across the whole department related to public health essential number 1? It's going to give you that answer. When you're going through accreditation or reaccreditation, you can go and say, here's what we're doing across the whole department related to FAB standard 6.1. So when you're sitting down either virtually or in person with your site reviewer, you can bring up this report that shows everything across the whole department you're doing related to 6.1, including every document. That's what they're here to see, is all that information. You bring it up in one place, makes their job easy. Strategic priorities from your strategic plan. We talked about that being the bottom of the dashboard screen. You can do that. So you're mapping everything against your partnering strategic priorities. So here's what we're doing related to our strategic priority of partnering. And then again, all those documents can be tagged as well. So you're going to go in and say, these are the 3 documents we're going to submit for standard 4.2. Easy to find, easy to grab those documents, shove them up into EFAB, and you're done. So this is the kind of the big bubble over the top of everything in the system that allows you to look in great detail across everything you're doing. Built into the system are accreditation and reaccreditation plans, both for the old 1.5 as well as the 2022. They are individual groups. So when I go to my group screen here, scroll down, you'll see all the different accreditation plans. So let's just take a look at reaccreditation local version 2022. So if I look at that and I start drilling down the pyramid, first thing we have is the process, which is just a map of the accreditation process. Then we have each domain. Under the domain, I have the standards. And down here, you'll notice we have that data source leading right back to the FAB documentation on their website. So if I click on this, it's going to take me right to the documentation for domain 1, in this particular case, standard 1.1. So what that does is give you the direct access to the specific point in the FAB documentation for this particular standard in there. Underneath the standards, then, we have the measures. And this is where the documents typically get attached. So you can notice this is document management down here. It says we have 3 documents attached. I click on that. You only see one because you're just seeing the latest version, unless I click on this, and then we see the 3 versions. The traffic lights and documents typically, as you're going through accreditation, indicate yellow is a draft. So you could have a bunch of yellows in here, drafts. When we get to green, what that typically indicates is we as the department are done with it and ready to submit it into EFAB. And then down here at the very bottom, we have gold indicating we're completed and we've submitted it up into EFAB. So you can actually go through and search documents and say, I just want to see everything that's green, meaning we're done with it, but we haven't yet submitted it up into EFAB. A lot of stuff you can do with document management. There's no limits on the number of documents or the size or the type of documents. You can put anything you want up in there. Now, this one says the document required is 1 community health assessment data within 5 years. That's nice if you know exactly what's supposed to be in a community health assessment. If you don't, you're going to drill down to the activities, and it says these are the 7 things that have to be involved in your CHA. And this one says a list of participating partners. Down here, you can see we have the list of partners attached in the documents. So once you collect all this information together, you develop your CHA, you attach it to the objective, and you're all set to go for that. So these plans, again, are all built in. You can have any of the ones that you want, the older versions, the newer versions, anything you like. So we've got them all in there for you. The other thing we built in is the ability to do what we call a virtual mock site visit. Mock site visits are something you might do before you do your FAB site visit, to just have somebody who's an expert come in and review all your documents and all your plans to make sure you're all ready for your final accreditation. Well, instead of having to come in, they can do this remotely now. We train them on how to do it. They come in, they pop up a review window on every activity. It shows notes in there, it shows the traffic lights, everything they want to know, but we're afraid to ask. When they're done doing the virtual mock site visit, there's a report that you generate, the accreditation review report, and it shows you all of your stuff plus all of their stuff. You can scan through it and say, okay, we're good to go, or hey, we need to update the dates on some of these documents because they'll be expired by the time we get there. So it's just another kind of a nice tool to have in there. Built into the system is complete training help and information. So I'll take you there live. So I'm sitting at my activities level right now. If I have any question about anything on this screen, I just go up to the blue eye, click on that, and it's going to take me right down to adding and managing activities. Over here is, I call this kind of the left-brained approach. It's the steps that you go through. Everything that you can do on that screen is defined in the steps in here. So you go through that if you want to. The other thing you have is a video training module specifically on activities down here, about 5 minutes long typically. This is the complete user guide. So you can print that off. You can dock it on your desktop. It's a hyperlink PDF. So the table of contents is hyperlinked. So you can click on anything in there and go to the function. This is called implementation guidelines. It's things that we've collected over the years from different clients about, gosh, what works really well. Here's a couple of templates in here to develop your operational plans. There's some IT things in here about firewalls, lots and lots of different stuff. One of the key things in there is how to engage staff. How do you get these people to respond to the emails and do the updates and things like that? So it's worth a read if you're just implementing the system in here. Up at the top left, we have 5 training modules. What we're going through today is this one. So if you guys wanted to, for those folks who didn't get to this, and if the recording doesn't work, I'm hoping it does, but if it does not work, they can just go right into here, go down here, click on the video, and it's about a 48-minute video of exactly what we're going over today. So that's the introduction. In addition, there's 4 other training modules, basics, operational plan development, performance monitoring. The next one we'll be doing live is operational plan development and then performance monitoring. We'll go through with the folks who are designated as administrators. We'll go through how to manage users and permissions and all that kind of stuff with the background stuff in here. So all of this is available to you 24/7 once you're logged in. Okay, one more quick section to go through. Any questions? Okay, move on. Intelligent real-time planning. I can't emphasize enough how much this makes your life easier and takes away the stress of managing the system, managing your department, managing the plans. This is how it works. Most people set it for monthly cycling, set anywhere between daily and monthly, but I would never recommend daily. People will start shooting you. But a monthly cycle is pretty good. So let's say we have it set for the first Monday of the month. On that day at 1 a.m., the system goes in and it looks at everybody who's designated as an activity lead or an objective lead, and it asks 3 questions. First question, has this person been in the last 30 days and updated their stuff? Second question, does this person have anything that is falling behind schedule? Third question, does this person have anything that's overdue, meaning past the ending date and not yet 100% complete? If none of those are true, no emails go out, no spam. If any of those are true, out go the emails. As I mentioned, emails can go to your internal folks as well as directly to the external partners. If you talk to them and they want to do the updates for you, hey, that's great. Saves you a lot of work. In that email is a link that takes you right back into your login. You can go to what we call the quick update system, which I'll go through here in a second. The quick update system allows you to actually go in and very simply update all the information in there. It looks a little complex. I'll show you the screen here in a minute, but it's really very simple. There's only 3 fields to update: traffic light, data value, notes field, and you next. And then you're going to log out. Give you an idea, across the 240 health departments, this process per person takes about 3 to 5 minutes per month. So each person can designate about 3 to 5 minutes on that first Monday of the month or whenever you set it for to actually go in and do the updates. This is how you keep the information alive in real time so you can actually use the system to manage. The activities quick update screen looks like this. The top of it is merely context. So you notice it says group, service, goal, objective, the pyramid. Down to the activity, I'm on 1 of 29, got my activity, my performance metric, and again, three fields to update. Traffic light, I can cycle through the 4 lights, put in my new data value, how many training sessions did we do last month, any notes that I have to put in there, I can put that in there. The data source can be edited from here. Typically, it's not edited in here, but you could in here. My next button, I'm going to save and go next, next, next. I'm going to walk through all of them. There's a similar screen for objectives. I'll go through that, then I'll log out. Again, 3 to 5 minutes. The reminder email is going to look like this. Here's those 3 criteria I mentioned. Why did I get the email? This is kind of a status of these particular activities that you have been assigned. So the red, yellow, green, and gold status of all the activities you've been assigned. Your administrators will be assigned in here. So if you have any questions about why did I get this email, what am I supposed to do with it, you can contact one of those folks. And then the link. This is the link to take you to log into the system here. I'm going to go through a couple things. Number one, I'm going to walk you through the steps to log in just in a text form so you can see that. And then I'm going to actually go live and walk you through actually logging into the system and going into quick update and changing your password. So to log into the dashboard, first thing you'll do is go to the link, login.vmsgdashboard.com. The alternative is just to go to vmsgdashboard.com. In the top right corner, there's a link that says if you're already a user, click here. I'll show you that in a minute. There's a dialog box that pops up, and there's 3 buttons in there. One of them is send, meaning send me my information. I'll click on the send button. I'll put in my email address, click send again. If I receive a dialog that says success, that means it found your login information. It sent you the email. Be looking for it. Sometimes those emails get caught in spam like everything else. Check it if you don't get it in the next minute or 2. If you don't get the success dialog, if you get any kind of an error message, please contact us. We'll make sure your account is right. And then there's a login button. Again, I'll show you this. You get the same dialog box. This time you'll enter your user ID or email address. In the email that you get, you'll have that. Your password, and then click login. So these are the steps you go through. The login email that you get after you hit that send button looks like this. Here's your user ID. Here's your password. Just FYI, you don't have to remember the user ID because if you choose to, you can use your email address in place of your user ID. So you do have to initially remember this crazy password, but we'll go through how to change that here in a minute. So what I'm going to do is actually walk you through the process here live. So I'm going to hit the red button up here as my log out. I'm going to log off. Now, as I mentioned, off here. This is the VMSG dashboard homepage. If I go up here, already a user login here, I'll click on that. It's going to take me to a new browser window and take me to login. Here's the send button I was talking about. I'll click on that. Gives me another dialog. Put in my email address, hit send again. So the success dialog says, hey, I found your account. I sent you the email. You're going to get an email that looks just like the one I showed. I'll click OK. Now I can go back up here to the login button. And again, in this time, I'm going to put in either my username or my email. So I got my choice. And you can go back and forth, by the way. It doesn't take just one or the other. So I've got my username in there. I got my password in there. I'm going to click login. Now, we do have a problem with some folks in here. They'll do this and they'll hit send again. It'll come up and say, put in your email, and they'll go through a cycle. Once you get to this point, you need to hit the login button. Click on that. Now, if I've been assigned as a objective lead or an activity lead, I'm going to get this dialog. So do you want to go to the main menu, which is where we've been working all day, or do you want to go to the quick update screen? Let's go to the quick update screen for now. On the main menu, there's a button called password that you can change your password. But if you're on a quick update, you just hit the key button up here. So I click on that, put in the current password. I would copy and paste out of the email. It's typically pretty quick. Put that in there, put in your new password, verify your new password like every other website in the world, hit update, and you're all set to go. Again, you get that same dialog from the main menu that we were on. I think the third one down or something is your password button. So this is my activity quick update screen. Again, context at the top. So it's all, this is non-editable stuff up here, but you can go through and cycle through the traffic lights, put in a data value, put in a note. This little button right here puts this time and date stamp in front of your note if you want it. So click on that, it'll put that in there and you can type in the note. Just, if you want a time and date stamp your notes in there. Then you're going to hit the next button and you're going to cycle through. So I'm on activity 2 of 29. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly cycle through all my activities. Okay, I'm on activity 29 of 29. I'm on my last activity. When I click the save button again, it says you're also an objective lead. So do you want to go look at the objectives? I'll go ahead and say yes. You're going to see a very similar screen, but this time is for the objectives up here versus the activities. Here's my objective. Remember, it's above the activities in the pyramid. So it shows up here. Again, traffic light, data value, notes field. Underneath the objective are the activities that report up to that objective in here. As the objective lead, you have access to those activities. Now, there's two different things you'll see down here. You see the ones in gray and you see the ones in blue. The ones in blue means that they are assigned to you as well. So what that means is I've already been through them. I just went through all my activities. I've already updated them. The ones in gray means that you have probably assigned them to somebody else. So you also have access to do that because you're the objective lead. You can do the updates. So maybe this person is out on vacation. You want to do the updates. You can go in and do that. So that's the objective quick update. Again, I've got my document management up here. I've got my help screen up here. All that information is available to you. And then I can go and log out. So I'm going to go through my objectives. I'm going to log out. And again, I'm going to be done for the month. Quick update is also available on your phone. So again, once you log in on your phone with the exact same, and the process, by the way, on your phone is the same. You got the send button. You can put in your email address if you want to and get it. You can put in your user ID and password. So you have the activity quick update. Again, a lot less context because of screen real estate. Objective quick update. You're going to cycle through those. You're going to log out. And you're going to be done for the month. So that was your drink out of a fire hose for the day. Again, the only purpose of this was just to show you overall what the system is going to be doing. The next training we're going to get into, we're going to drill down for those of you who will actually be doing entering plans or creating operational plans. We'll be going through the operational planning training. The session after that is we're going to ask everybody as homework for the operational planning training to do a simple little operational plan, something just real quick, can be fun, doesn't have to be anything business related if you don't want to. Then we're going to go through a session and review the plans just so you understand the planning process. And then the next session we go through is performance monitoring, which talks about all the charts and graphs, reporting, VMSG Public, that sort of thing. So that's all I have for today. Any questions? Anything else you'd like to see before we log off for the day?
That was a lot of information, Fred. Thank you so much for doing this.
I know it was. And again, remember, there's no test. Just kind of keep that in mind as we go through the next trainings.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there was a limit on the people. So we should have fewer people because we're just asking our program leads and the people who are entering the objectives and data and monitoring it to come to the meeting tomorrow and then the subsequent training. So now that we know, we can share, or is there a way to increase if we have more than 26, or should we just share computers?
I'll look at it and see. I don't know why we have the 25 limit. I think it's a go-to-meeting thing, but let me take a look and figure it out. But typically, the next training, again, is a subset of these folks, just like you said, the people who are actually doing the plans and the follow-on trainings we do in groups of 4 to 6 as we're doing the reviews, because we're actually doing reviews. And then the performance monitoring training, again, is the same group as the operational planning. I will check and see if the recording worked this time. If it did, I will send you a link to the session here that you can pass on to the other folks.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
You too.